Hey, what's going on, everyone? I hope everyone has been doing fantastic. The SPY is at a new all-time high. The Q's made a new all-time high. The IWM didn't really make a new all-time high, but that's all right. We're gonna go into in depth in all of these different indices, as well as the 7,000 tickers that you guys wanted me to go over for a technical analysis. We're gonna go over Bitcoin, the dollar, all the cryptos, and everything. It's gonna be great. All right. So without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, so what I want to look at first is the SPY, right? My SPY chart is a bit dirty, but what I want to look at first then, I guess, is the SPX. And the SPX is basically the same thing, okay? So now, if we look at the SPX currently, right, it is extremely, extremely bullish. If you look at it from, if you just zoom out, this is a giant bull flag, all right? And bull flags are extremely bullish patterns. All right. So to get an upward target, to get a target essentially with a bull flag, you take the length of the flagpole, right? You would clone it. And at the point, so basically a conservative target that you can have is from the bottom level of the flag, right? You connect the flagpole to the bottom level of the flag. And where we start to break out from, that's where you would get your upward target. So we approximately have an upward target on the SPY if this breaks out to approximately 445 at least. All right. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but currently we are extremely bullish on the SPX. The Bollinger Bands, the upper level of the B bands are beginning to curl upward, which means that the momentum is pushing the average standard deviation above. Blah, 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 blah. It's a lot of math, but it's super bullish right now. The MACD has barely crossed over, and we are at a new all-time high on the SPY. All right, so things look very, very bullish. But the one thing that we have to keep our eyes on is this rising wedge pattern. Okay, this rising wedge pattern, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this and are, looking at it right now. These levels need to hold. Okay. So the specific levels, if we go back to the SPY, right, because that's what most of us trade. So the specific levels on the SPY, let me just go ahead and do that. All right, so here's the SPY. The lower level of the rising wedge pattern on the SPY for tomorrow is going to be approximately 424.60. All right. The upper level of the rising wedge is not even worth, caring much about. It's going to be at approximately 428.50, which is much higher. All right, so we need to really see how we respond with this rising wedge. We just broke a new all-time high on the SPY. We are extremely overextended, but all of the momentum indicators are pointing upwards in a very, very drastic and extreme way. It looks so bullish. This is ridiculous, honestly. The way that it's just, I can't really explain it in words, but all of these things in confluence is like very, very, I've never really seen anything like it. So it's very, very strong. So I can be completely wrong, but this looks super, super bullish. But, again, it doesn't really matter what I see. It doesn't matter what we think. All that matters is trading the levels blindly. All right. We take our, we have to put our our opinions to the side. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, if we do look at the, the moving averages and everything, we're trading above the 10 simple moving average, basically essentially as resistance or as support. We're keeping above that level very nicely. If we look at the SPX, it paints an even better picture. This black line, which is the 10 simple moving average, has been acting as support for the past few weeks. We crossed below it once, but then we just shot back up, and it didn't really make a difference afterward. So overall, the SPY looks very, very, very bullish. And I could be completely wrong. But yeah, we can see that there's an upward target. We can see a large bull flag. And if that bull flag breaks, then we can see 450, essentially 445 soon on the SPY. All right, so we saw the MACD on the SPY, how it just crossed above, right? But when we look at the IWM, the MACD on the IWM has not even crossed above yet. And it's still below the MACD line, which is a very, very bullish signal. All right. If we look at the RUT, which is the SPX equivalent of the SPY, right, we can still see that the 10 SMA is beautifully acting as support. We need to stay above this level right here at approximately 228, 230, essentially, for the IWM still. You know, but currently the IWM really isn't, the IWM currently is not leading the market. The tech sector is. So what we need to keep an eye on for the IWM is essentially we just need to stay above the 10 simple moving average. And as long as the other indices, the SPY and the QQQ, remain bullish, the IWM will eventually get pulled up as well. Okay, so the IWM still has a lot more room potentially to go higher. All right, but now, now when you look at the QQQ, the Nasdaq, right? If you look at the Nasdaq, you can see that the MACD on the Nasdaq is extremely much higher, right? And we see what happened. You know, for example, the SPY nowhere near where the MACD on the QQQ is, which is why I'm so bullish on the SPY as well. All right, so now the QQQ is essentially, you can look at it as like what may happen on the SPY and what may happen on the IWM. All right, so now as we can see today, we made new all-time highs on the tech sector. Tech led everything, and you know, we essentially closed at an all-time high, which is very, very bullish. So, but we need to take into consideration that we are now, you know, on top of the upper level of the B band. And, you know, on the SPY, I was showing that we were just about to start touching the upper level of the B band. All right. Whereas on the Qs, we've touched it and are now above it. Okay. So what we need to keep into consideration is usually when that happens, it is a very bearish sign. But because the overall market is extremely, extremely bullish, we can see all throughout April, we were trading outside of the upper level of the B band, and we just continued on higher. And, you know, 9 out of 10 times when this happened, before this happened, 9 out of 9 times, whenever we hit the upper level of the B band, we ended up tumbling soon after. For example, here and many other times, right? If we bought puts for a few months out, you know, at least 1 to 2 months out, we would be very profitable. But in April, that was not the case. This was the first time in a very long time that the you know, the overall market just continued on higher. Where was it exactly on the SPY when we crossed above 400? Yeah, April. Yep, exactly in April. So on the SPY, we crossed above 400, and we just never really looked back since until like May. But then by then, if you did buy puts when we crossed above the upper level of the B band for a month out, you would have not made any money, right? So we're in extremely, extremely different, like very bullish times right now. The entire market, it makes no sense, okay? And you need to realize that when there is like inflation and lots of bearish reasons why the market will go down, that is the perfect opportunity for hedge funds and banks to buy up the market. And for example, right, like right now, everyone is super bullish, or everyone is like super bearish, right? It makes no sense why the market is going to continue on higher, right? But yet the SPY made a new all-time high today. The Nasdaq made a new all-time high today, right? Skeptics and, you know, people that don't believe that this move can continue on higher, they will be the ones that miss out on the move because they stick to their opinions and they let that blind them from the bullish opportunity. People remain bearish even when the price action is not in their favor. So the only way to really continue to make money, regardless of the environment that we're trading in, is we have to trade the market completely without bias. You have to trade it. You have to trade what you see in front of you. All right. Algorithms and robots and AI, they trade what's in front of them. They trade the price action and they trade the levels. And that's essentially what we need to do. The Q's made a new all-time high. The IWM is still very bullish. it still has room to go on the MACD. The MACD on the Qs is extremely bullish. We haven't even touched overbought yet on the RSI on the Qs. All right, so there's still some more room to go, and yeah, so essentially, you know, above the prior all-time high, which was 340.280, that's the new support. And you know, just looking at things very, very basic sometimes, you know, because we're in completely uncharted territory, and anything above you know, 342.80 is bullish. And then if we fall below it, then you know, we need to retest this new all-time high, and we see from there. But for now, the support is 342.80, which is the prior all-time high on the Qs. All right, if we look at the NDX, which is, you know, the same as the RUT and the SPX, this looks this looks absolutely beautiful. This is, you know, this is the line from January 1999. You know, you can also see a beautiful bull flag here. Not as clean, but we can also see, you know, we crossed above the January 1999 line. We're trading above, we're trading against the, you know, the upper level of the B band, which is also very, very bullish. It's crazy. It makes no sense, but it is what it is. This is what's happening. If you weren't bullish and you want to just keep on being bearish about things, you're going to miss out on a lot of money. So I'd recommend just keep an open mind to things, even when they don't make sense. All right. So there's the NDX. Let's look at crude oil. Crude oil, still super, super, super bullish. All right. We crossed above and traded above the upper level of the B band on June 1st. And, you know, that could have been a very bearish sign, similar to how it was on May 5th. You know, we crossed above the upper level of the B band. People were like, whoa, you know, this doesn't look too good. We're overextended, blah, blah, blah. We ended up falling at the end of May, right? But since then, we've just been in an uptrend, okay? When crude oil is doing well, the overall economy is doing well. Not the economy, but when crude oil does well, the overall stock market is doing very, very well, okay? So if crude oil is continuing to do really, really well, the MACD looks like it's about to cross down. When the MACD crosses down, that is a very bearish sign. But the fact that the price action is moving upward, when the MACD line is crossing below, that is mind-boggling. How much money is being funneled into the markets right now. And that's essentially what's going on right now. These indicators are showing just unimaginable strength right now. And crude oil is at a new all-time high today as well. So it's things are looking pretty interesting for crude oil. The dollar, I mean, like the dollar essentially, you know, there's this level that we were drawing out from January 6th. And you can see it was acting as support multiple times. And then recently it's been acting as resistance, very, very clean resistance. And it's, you know, it's with confluence with the 50 simple moving average, which is this line right here at 90.7. All right. So, you know, usually when the dollar is weak, it means that the overall stock market is strong. And when the dollar is going higher, then the overall stock market will go lower. All right. So we are at resistance on the dollar. It looks pretty good for the overall equities market. So let's just keep an eye on the dollar. The US 10-year yield, I mean, it's not really as relevant as it was like a few months ago, but I mean, yeah, it's not really important to look at right now. I'd rather look at Bitcoin and crypto and the rest of the other stocks that you guys wanted me to look at. All right, so let's go ahead and look straight into Bitcoin right now. All right, so here's a chart of Bitcoin. Let me go ahead and clean everything up and just look at the chart. All right. So in May, when this fell down below essentially to 30,000, right? I told everyone I knew to buy into crypto on that day. Literally, as that was happening, I texted everyone that I knew and I was like, yo, just buy. I posted on Twitter, I posted on Instagram and TikTok and everything. I told you guys to buy. But I'm obviously not your financial advisor. Anyway, so the reason why we bounced so heavily, so we fell to 30, right? The next day we ended up bouncing up to 43. Why did that happen? Because in the crypto markets, when we do fall so heavily, right, what you need to do is you make a Fibonacci retracement from the highs to the absolute lows. You can apply this same concept to the intraday levels, on stocks, on option. You can literally apply this to stock market as well. Okay, so you draw a Fibonacci retracement level from the top of the move to all the way to the bottom, and almost always, like on a very, very bearish move, okay, almost always, whenever there is an extremely bearish move like this, we almost literally always touch the 23.6% fib level or the 38.2% fib level. We ended up touching the 38.2% fib level within a day. Okay, so now we're back at that same level, the 38.2% fib level from the bottom. All right, and you know, I'm sure you guys have been, like, you guys saw, you know, this this descending triangle and like a bunch of different other, you know, patterns that we just broke out above. Super bullish, right? 41,370 is a 38.2% fib level on Bitcoin. You can see that it's acting as a little bit of resistance here. That level needs to be taken out, because another thing that you guys need to take into consideration is this was a falling wedge. And I drew this out here because a large Twitter influencer for Bitcoin, who basically made it like mainstream among institutions. His name is Raul Paul, and he drew this on his Twitter, right? So now, what I want to also take into consideration is this lower level of the falling wedge. He was telling people to, like, look, just buy. He was telling people to buy here. He was telling people to buy here. He's like, you know, he's very, very bullish on Bitcoin, and he's one of the major reasons why, you know, it's more mainstream among hedge funds and banks and institutions and, you know, family, you know, practices, etc. So the lower level of that, you know, trend that he was showing is also in confluence essentially with the 38.2% fib level. So, you know, we really need to consider this is a very, very major level of resistance. Okay, if we can cross above this, create some sort of, you know, price action here, you know, for a few days, whatever, this would give room to go back up to 45 and 46. And then from there, we can make new all-time highs. Okay, but this is an extremely important level. Personally, I really do think that we're going to touch the 50% level eventually. I really think that we're going to touch 45 very soon. Even though the MACD is not as bullish as, you know, the SPY or the IWM as we saw before. But this is a very good sign because it shows that the momentum has shifted from, you know, completely going lower to, you know, it's shifting bullish. Okay, the RSI is still, you know, the RSI crossed above 50, which is also another good sign. There's still a lot of room for it to go to overbought territory. Anyway, I think Bitcoin goes back to 45, and then from there it's going to be very important. But in the short term, right now, the 38.2% fib level, you can literally copy that exact thing. If you see the SPY, for example, look, so for example, you see the SPY intraday, it completely got plastered. All right, it fell from what? For example, it fell from like freaking 424 to like 420. Right, it fell 4 points in a matter of an hour. You can do that same Fibonacci retracement. You draw it from the top of the move all the way to the bottom, and it is literally almost 100% success rate that the SPY will retest at least the 23.6 or the 38.2% fib level from that move. All right, so you can just buy in light when you think there is support, and, you know, just trade it back up to the 38.2% fib level, and that's your money for the day, honestly. So there's Bitcoin. You know, these are the levels to take into consideration. And I hope you guys have more money to buy if we do fall into the 20s. But aside from that, short term, it looks bullish. We need to cross above 41.3. And then I think that we end up touching 45. All right, there's Bitcoin. All right, so Ethereum and all of the altcoins. All right, there's two main, obviously. All right, so there's bears that think that Bitcoin is going to fall back into the 20s. And there's two main camps in the bullish camp. All right, there's the camp that thinks that altcoins and Ethereum are going to continue leading the way for Bitcoin's move upward. And then there are the people that believe that the move for the NFTs and Ethereum and all of these other smaller projects is done for now. Bitcoin is going to lead the bullish market upward. And then after Bitcoin makes its move, that is when Ethereum and Litecoin and XRP and these other coins are going to follow Bitcoin's lead. So you know how, Ethereum was completely outperforming Bitcoin, right? Basically, those people are saying that Bitcoin is going to completely outperform Ethereum and these other altcoins, and then the altcoins are going to follow. All right. So with that in mind, all of this is really long term anyway. Like, we're just holding and buying and accumulating and just waiting. We're just patient with this. So it doesn't really matter to us, but it's important to position ourselves with things that we can profit off of in the short term so that we can flip our money and, say, for example, like sell our winning positions and buy into the lagging positions, similar to what people are doing on the stock market right now. The Qs are the victor. They're going to be taking their profits from the Qs and then dumping them into the IWM, as we've been seeing time and time again. People chase profits. So anyway, back to crypto. All right, so the fact that Ethereum is still trading above these two levels is very, very important at 23,000 or 2340. All right, we can see that it's has some sort of resistance at the 20 EMA. The MACD looks very bullish. Sorry, I burped. The MACD looks very bullish. You can see that it's similar to the IWM's MACD. But, that is, we still need to cross out of the, this triangle here, whereas Bitcoin did cross out of it. Ethereum still needs to try to cross out. So, yeah, the altcoins and everything are going to be lagging a bit, according to the charts and stuff. But, overall, Ethereum looks very, very bullish as long as Bitcoin looks very bullish. So, yeah, as long as Bitcoin looks good, Ethereum is still a very, very good hold. I'm obviously not your financial advisor, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, these levels need to hold. Longer term, blockchain is here to stay, really. So that's completely fine. The next levels that we need to watch, let me just draw a fib. Let me show you guys how I would draw the fib. So you click this, and you can draw it from the top all the way to the bottom, right? And here you go. You get the 38.2% fib level and the 0.5% fib level. And as you can see on Bitcoin, we're already very close to the 38.2% fib level, whereas Ethereum is lagging behind a bit. So it's still, so 38.2% fib level is at 2736, and then 50% is at 3050. All right, so Ethereum clearly still has some ways to go compared to Bitcoin, right? So, yeah, there's Ethereum. Looks pretty bullish overall, as long as Bitcoin crosses above the 38.2% fib level and does not completely, the only thing that is not bullish on Bitcoin is this MACD. So if this MACD wants to fall and reset a bit, right? Like because we're very overextended here. Whenever the MACD gets overextended away from the yellow line, the price usually falls, right? And what happens to the MACD is it falls and it gives room for a bullish push upward, right? So the fact that we are extremely overextended on the MACD on Bitcoin is not a bullish sign. All right, so I would be very hesitant and careful. I wouldn't be buying any Bitcoin or anything, honestly, right now. I would wait for it to cross above levels, and then I would wait for it to create a support and then buy. All right. So right now it's not a good time to buy really anything unless you're looking to just buy and hold and not care about trading. So yeah, there's that for Ethereum as well. All right, cool. So now let's go ahead and check out all the different stocks and other cryptos that you guys want me to check out, starting with Apple. All right. So Apple, we've had this line drawn out for quite some time. This lower support level, we can see today it crossed completely above it. Oops. It crossed completely above it. The tech sector was extreme. It was the heavy winner today. The MACD, you can see it's, overextended, similar to the Qs. The RSI went straight up. And now the next level of resistance on Apple is going to be this level right here at 131.50. Okay. If 131.50 can break, it's going to end up retesting the gap here. And like I say, gaps, they always tend to get filled. So there's a gap here between 131.50 and this low here, which is at 131.83. All right. So if we get that high, we're going to end up touching 131.83. And from there, that's when, things can, we can potentially touch this resistance point here, bounce off, accumulate a bit more, and then eventually maybe bounce off of this line again for another move up. Let's see. But for now, Apple looks very, very bullish. There's earnings at the beginning of August, so we can see some chop. But overall, we're quite a way away from all-time highs. The Qs are at a new all-time high, but Apple is very far from it. So, we can see potential movement in Apple. But for now, the main level of support is this level right here, this support level. And for tomorrow, that's going to be approximately 128. So that is going to be very important to watch on Apple. So ADA, you can see that it's touching the 38.2% fib level that we showed, on Bitcoin and Ethereum earlier. The MACD is still very below it, and it looks like it's about to cross above, which is a very bullish sign. We can see there's also, I think, this right here. This level right here, essentially, and we crossed above it. So that is also another bullish sign. So maybe, I think for the next 2 days, we can see an upward movement. Maybe, 1 or 2 days here, we might cross above the 38.2% fib level. But usually when that happens is we see a retest of this level. So you see a strong downward trend line. What tends to happen is when we do break above, we end up retesting that trend line. All right, so that's something that I would keep my eyes on. But we are breaking above it, which is a very, very, very bullish sign. And the MACD is still oversold, which is also a bullish sign. All right, so ADA overall looks pretty bullish. All right, so here's XRP. We see another, triangle here. We need to cross above that level, which today it is essentially the high of the day at 93 cents. It crossed into the 23.6% fib level. It has yet to even touch the 38.2% fib level, which is at $1.05. So there's still upward room to go. The 50% fib level is at 1.17. The MACD is just about to cross above now, which is a bullish sign. So we could, similarly see another, 1 or 2 days of bullish move. We can potentially cross out of this, upper level of the triangle, and then eventually retest to that level. And then once we retest it, that would be a much safer buy opportunity. Or you wait for it to retest the lower level again. But, overall, XRP is just beaten down, and the MACD looks pretty bullish. The RSI is still very, very low. So there's still a lot more room to go to the upside. So, overall, XRP looks beaten down, but it looks like it's ready for a bounce. I could be wrong. All right, next is VeChain. Honestly, I hope VeChain does well. I know a lot of people are holding on to it, and I just hope it does well. Anyway, VeChain, very similarly, there's a downward trend line here. It needs to cross above it, which is literally at today's highs at really 12 cents. So 12 cents, if that crosses above, we can have another, 1 or 2 days of a potential bullish move. And then, very similarly to the other ones, retest of the level. We can see the MACD is still very oversold, which is a very, very bullish sign for a potential move upward. RSI is oversold, not oversold, but still a lot of room to go to the upside. So VeChain overall looks, again, beaten down, but ready for a bounce, in my opinion. So let's just see how that happens. SOS, these same support and resistance levels from like weeks ago when I was posting videos on SOS still apply. It's crazy. I don't know why, but I had a few friends that have just lost a crap ton of money on SOS. But a very good signal, a very good sign for SOS is that it's starting to trade above the 50 simple moving average for the first time since March. So that is a very, very good sign. All right. As you can see, when it does trade above the 50, we are extremely bullish. So anyway, this could potentially be a good sign for SOS. It's trading above the 50 SMA. It needs to cross above 405 and above this level here at 422. If it can trade above those two levels, then I would become very bullish on SOS. It's gotten beaten down like crazy. It has a lot of holders, but you have to trade these levels very strictly because they can make you a bag holder if you don't adhere to them. But yeah, overall SOS looks pretty good. It's knocking on the upper level of the B band, which is also very bullish. So yeah, there's SOS. I hope it works out. AVGR, you can see a a descending line here that's acting as resistance. 122 is extremely, extremely important level of resistance. If we can't cross above that, doesn't look too good for AVGR. The MACD is pointed downwards, but we're moving upwards. Overall, this is a pretty bullish move. It's kind of confusing, but we can see that the 10 simple moving average has been acting as support. We see that this line here has been acting as support, and then we created a mini bull flag and broke out of it. Oh, sorry, we're attempting to break out of it. So 122 is really the important level on AVGR. If we can cross above it, then we can potentially start becoming bullish. And again, if we cross above descending line, we can have 1 or 2 bullish days at least. And that's when we would be able to take our profits. And then potentially it would retest this line again after it broke out. And from there, you can buy again, or you can wait for it to retest this lower level here on AVGR. All right. Mara, man, these same levels just keep on appearing over and over. All right. So now we can see that it's acting very, very bullish because Bitcoin is acting very bullish, but it stopped clean at the 50 simple moving average, which is in confluence with this upper level of resistance here at, what is this, 3247. Okay. It needs to stay above 2960, and it needs to cross above 3247. So as long as those two conditions are met and Bitcoin continues to cross above, 42,000, Mara and Riot are going to look very, very nice. And yeah, that's really it. As long as Bitcoin is doing well, Mara can continue doing well. It just needs to stay above 2960. And that's a very, very important level. The next important level, if Mara can cross above, is 3250. And if we see a break of 3250, that would be a really nice scalping opportunity, in my opinion, to the upside for calls. So this is HEPA, extremely bullish move here on HEPA. You can see it completely just trading outside of the upper level of the B band, which is very, very bullish. It means that the momentum is just constantly upward. But one important level that we need to keep in consideration for support is 215. 215 is a very, very important level of support. As you can see, this entire area is choppy, but 215 is a very, very important level for HEPA. The 200 simple moving average is also another important level of resistance, which is at 233. All right. But one thing that you need to take into consideration is that the RSI is oversold or overbought, and the MACD is extremely overbought. So just be careful on this, and just keep your stops tight. Don't get caught holding the bag, because stocks like these, they can continue on. You know, they can continue on. They could break the 50. They could break the 200 simple moving average, make everyone bullish, blah blah blah. But you know, dump it right on you afterward. So just be very careful, especially with stocks that had a tremendous move like this already. I would have much rather gotten into HEPA at 155. I don't even know when I did technical analysis on the stock, but I have this drawn out. So yeah, that would have been a much more amazing buying opportunity. So I would wait for it to either fall back down to support, or I would trade the momentum and keep my my stop loss tight. All right, so that's that on HEPA. UWMC, I also had technical analysis done on this as well. Not sure when, but essentially this level right here is acting as clear resistance. We can see that the past few days we tried to cross above it on June 9th, 10th, and 11th, and then today as well. We actually opened above it for the first time, right? But it did not hold. We ended up closing below it. So now tomorrow, the level that we need to watch on UWMC is 1046. If we can cross above it, then we're bullish. If we're still below it, then we're bearish. All right. The MACD is extremely overbought still. The RSI is overbought as well. And we have not crossed above this level of resistance. So I'd be very careful on UWMC. AMD obviously looks very, very bullish, as did the rest of the tech sector. We can see that it crossed above and is holding above the 10 simple moving average, which is this black line. The lower level of this bull flag is in confluence. The lower level of the bull flag is in confluence with the 50 simple moving average, which is this friggin', I don't know what color that is. The MACD is oversold. The RSI still has room to go before it becomes overbought. So this looks like it can start flying, right? And this is a bull flag. So to get the upward target of the bull flag, potentially this can go to $90, all right? Purely based off of this bullish pattern here. And yeah, overall, as long as the rest of the stock market does well, AMD looks very, very bullish and can also do well also. So GM and Ford had pretty red days today. You can see that the MACD is now oversold. The RSI is pointed downward. But we're oversold at support. All right, so we need to see how GM acts around $60 or $60.15, and to see if we can bounce back up. All right. Similarly to Ford, right? We're also basically extremely oversold. The RSI is now not overbought anymore, and it's also pointed downward. But look at all the support that we're here at, right? Usually when we do have, super red days, there is a bit of a bounce. But let's see if we can find some support on Ford and GM. So on Ford, we would need to really stay above 1450. And yeah, if we can stay above 1450, that would be very, very great. But yeah, I hope it works out for you guys that are holding GM and Ford. If those two levels break, then, it could be very, 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 very bloody. The fact that we are this oversold on the MACD usually means that we are due for a bounce, right? But if Ford breaks 1450 and this MACD continues falling lower, that is a very, very bearish sign, honestly. So I'd be very careful for those two levels on GM and Ford. Tesla looked super bullish today. You can see that the MACD looks very similar to the SPY. It just crossed above. Let me take this out right here. You can see that there's a down. I need to figure out what the hell to call this. A downtrend line? Whatever. So there's a line here that's pointed downwards, and Tesla just crossed above it today, which is a very, very bullish sign. You can see that it bounced straight off of the 50 simple moving average, 200 simple moving average as well, which is also another very bullish sign. The RSI barely moved upward, really, which is very, very, very bullish. So the MACD also barely moved upward, which is, again, like it very, very bullish. So what might happen is, again, we might have another day or two of green moves on Tesla, and then eventually a retest to either the breakout point or a complete retest of this the trend line itself. So yeah, those are the two things that might happen for Tesla. I'd be very careful about, swinging these, because, either way the market can be very, very fickle. I'm not swinging anything really anymore for now because the movement in the market is way too choppy. So these are mostly for scalps and intraday moves. But it's important to know that Tesla, on an overall scale, broke out of a downtrend, and today was the first day that it crossed out of it. So that is very, very bullish. The next level of resistance on Tesla is going to be right here at 635.59. And hey, man, like, that would be pretty nice if we ended up touching that, because if we break above that, then we're most definitely going to retest 650. All right, so those are some levels to take into consideration. You can see that there's also a trend line down here and a trend line down here as well. And yeah, multiple levels of places that you can buy dips or go short against for scalps, right? So Tesla overall looks very, very bullish, crossed out of its downtrend. NVA, a Canadian company, it needs to break above 315. If it breaks above 315, then I would have essentially like 305 as a stop loss, $3 or 305 as a stop loss, and then the targets would be the prior highs. So that's how I would trade NVA. Overall, it looks like it's having somewhat of a difficult time crossing above it, but today was just the first day it retested it, the high at 315. We can see that the MACD is a bit overbought. We crossed above it. The RSI still hasn't become overbought yet, which is a good sign. So, just keep an eye on NVA. 315 is a very important level of resistance right now. All right, just look at how bullish NVIDIA looks right now. NVIDIA made a new all-time high. All right, look, new all-time high on NVIDIA. But the MACD is overbought. That is ridiculous. I've never, this is ridiculous to me. This is absolutely bonkers. So it's crazy. It looks super, super bullish. The RSI is overbought. The MACD is oversold. But we're at a new all-time high. That is ridiculous. And the upper level of the B band is so far upward that it's irrelevant right now. So what really needs to happen is we need to hold, the high from June 7th, which is 712.50. If 712.50 can hold, and then essentially 700, because it's $720 stock now. So if 700 can hold, then this can just continue on higher. Especially if the overall market continues going higher, the NVIDIA can potentially touch 850, or even higher soon. So yeah, NVIDIA looks very ridiculously bullish. This is just bonkers, man. Next up is mRNA, right? So mRNA, it's been rallying recently. So one way to look at it is we, failed the 23.6% fib level and are essentially retesting the 38.2% fib level at 196.75, right? If that level doesn't hold, then the 50% fib level at 187 needs to hold on mRNA. So obviously, we don't even want to think about it touching those levels, but the RSI made a huge downward move, a sharp move to the downside. It's not overbought anymore. The MACD is oversold, which is a very bullish sign. And we are trading above the 10 simple moving average, which is also another very bullish sign. So let's see, as long as we can hold above today's lows, and then the 10 simple moving average, and then the 23.6% fib level at 208.54. With those three things, mRNA should continue being bullish, which is another reason why it looks like it's bullish in the post market, because people are looking at this exact same thing. So let's see if those things hold true for mRNA. AXTA looks pretty interesting. It looks like it's at a low. The MACD is extremely oversold. The RSI is not, overbought, which means that it has room to the upside. And yeah, it just needs to really hold this level here and today's low, right? So those two levels are going to be 31.19 and today's low, which was 30.99, right? If AXTA can hold those two levels, then that is a pretty nice, swing opportunity to the upside. But if it crosses below those two levels, that's when you become bearish, because there is a gap to be filled to the downside at 30.34. So you see how there's this gap in price action right here? Yeah, those usually get filled, and that's something to take into consideration to the downside. Everything looks bullish, that's fine, but if this breaks, it doesn't matter how bullish everything looks, we're falling, and potentially we're going to fill the 30.34 gap. So take that into consideration for AXTA. Sol, man, I love Sol. I love Sol. So Sol looks very bullish. Let's check out the B bands. Yeah, B bands look decent, whatever. But overall, we're trading above the 50% fib level at 38.73. The MACD is still oversold. The RSI has barely even made a move, which is also extremely bullish because it barely moved, but the price of Sol skyrocketed, and we still have a lot more room to the upside. The only thing now is that we're touching these two levels of simple moving averages at the 10 simple moving average and the 50, which is the black and those two numbers right here. So 39.50 and 39.8 are the two levels of resistance now, but overall it looks very bullish. 38.73 is going to be the short-term support, but I mean, look at how bullish this looks. This is another bull flag being formed right here, and you could just right there. Boom, that's another bull flag, right? So there's a lot of it looks very, very bullish. That's basically it. So yeah, congratulations. I love Sol, and it looks really nice. Overall, I think that Sol makes a new all-time high before Ethereum and these other coins, in my opinion. But yeah, I love Sol. And but this isn't investment advice. I'm not your financial advisor. Anchor, on the other hand, I'm not gonna lie, honestly, it looks damn. Honestly, like, it just doesn't look very good. I mean, if you look at the MACD looks like it's crossing above, which is a very bullish sign, but we're at the lows, right? So even if it does cross above and the MACD ends up all the way up here, where will Anchor be with this similar move? Would it cross above the 22.6% fib level in between the 38 and the 23? Probably, but it's like, what's going to happen once the MACD becomes very overcooked on Anchor? It's going to need to like cool down a bit, right? Because that's what usually happens when the MACD is very oversold or overbought. Like, you see this blue line, whenever it's extremely overbought, it needs to cool down a bit, right? And over here, cools down a bit, cools down a bit, cools down a bit. But at a low, it's not a very bullish sign. But there is one thing that we can look at on Anchor, and it is this downtrend line right here. Okay? If we can cross above that, then again, very similarly to the other downtrend. Oh, and it's perfectly in confluence with the 10 simple moving average. So that helps. So if we cross above that, we can have, 1 or 2 days of bullish move. A lot of people are going to end up buying here. But then what ends up happening is we either retest back to the breakout price, which is right here, right? Or it'll retest all the way back down to this trend line. So overall, in the short term, Anchor does look bullish, obviously, right? But it needs to cross above the 10 simple moving average, which is at 9 cents, 0.9129, right? And it needs to break above this trend line here. AMC. All right, first of all, AMC is going to the moon. It is going to touch $1,000. No ifs, ands, or buts. And yeah, no, but don't sue me. Anyway, AMC to the moon. All right, look at how ridiculously bullish AMC is. Where this is a bull flag. Okay, you can see the bull flag, flagpole, all this good stuff, right? You can see it's created like a triangle here. That's fine, but the MACD is so oversold, yet the price is continuing on higher. That is very, very, very bullish. Okay, so we need to continue keeping an eye on AMC. Honestly, this is a social movement. It doesn't even really matter as much about the company. This is a movement centered around the strength of the people. Okay, if you don't want AMC or GameStop or BlackBerry or freaking Nokia, all these other stocks to do well, like, why not? I don't understand. Like, what is going on in your mind? Like, what fundamental reason do you have that it's similar to Dogecoin? Dogecoin literally only went up because it was a matter of people uniting. Okay, AMC is very similar. Obviously, AMC and GameStop is very similar to that. So AMC currently looks really, really good. Looks bullish. AMC to the moon, man. Just AMC to the moon. That's it. Oh, but honestly, I mean, like, it just needs to really hold above today's lows. If not, there's a gap down to 49.60 that can potentially get filled. But overall, the MACD is very oversold. The RSI is just barely overbought now. And the price action is ridiculously bullish. All right, so that's AMC. FRX looks like it looks garbage. Like, when did you buy this? Like, send me a message. Like, let's talk about when you bought it and when you got it and stuff. Like, if you didn't buy it yet, that's good. So I'm just gonna assume that you didn't buy yet, right? And wow. So I mean, it's been dying out. It's been accumulating for weeks, right? Which is why we saw a huge spike upward, because they were just waiting for this accumulation to, you know, the dead cat bounce and all the shorts and everyone they just covered, right? So now what needs to hold is a 10 simple moving average at 10.19, and then this level here, this entire area at 10, let's just call it 10.10. All right, 10.10 would need to hold. If those levels don't hold, then we can retest the lows. But, you know, the RSI, it cooled down a bit. The MACD still looks a bit overbought. Not as hugely overbought as it was before. But, yeah, we made a huge red candle today. We opened up higher, but it bounced straight off the 10 simple moving average, which is a bullish sign. And we can see that the past few weeks, it's been trading above the 10 simple moving average. So that is, you know, it's pretty bullish for that respect. So yeah, I would keep an eye on, you know, good trading setups intraday. But other than that, you know, 10.10 needs to hold. If it crosses below 10.10, you can either go, I mean, I wouldn't even go short. I would just wait for it to accumulate back up above 10.10 if it falls below it. All right, but definitely send me a message. I hope you didn't buy it up here or anything like that. But yeah, cool. There's FRX. So Bank of America is also in the IWM, and the IWM had a pretty red day today. But you can see that it's extremely overbought on the MACD. The RSI is not oversold yet, which is, you know, there's still, I mean, sorry, it's not overbought yet, which is a good sign. And it bounced exactly off of the 50 simple moving average, which is a very good sign at 41.11. So today's lows need to hold, and you can see that it was literally in confluence with a prior high that we had. So it's very interesting to see how that happens. But the 50 simple moving average, I do think that it might fall a bit lower for another day, but If it doesn't, the 50 simple moving average is the level to watch as support at 41.11. And then from there, you know, things can tighten up a bit, and then we can make new all-time highs, especially if the IWM does well and the rest of the market continues to do well. Bank of America should hold. But yeah, the Bank of America, these other bank companies and stuff, they all are heavily dependent on the IWM. So keep an eye on the IWM as well. All right, Leaf Mobile, it's a Canadian company. It barely gets any volume unless you think that the company itself is going to do well. I don't even think that it's worth even trying to trade companies like this because they're so illiquid that you're going to get terrible fills. It's not like, I mean, it's not even, look, I mean, we have support right here, right? Which is very, very nice. We're at a support level from, you know, back in March, we had multiple touches. This is the third touch. If we can bounce above this level, that's great. But today's lows is really the very important level of support at 36.5 cents. So I would really just keep an eye on that level there. It needs to stay above that. But otherwise, it's not a very good stock, in my opinion. There's so many different other opportunities to trade. The MACD does look overbought, which means that it can bounce, right? The RSI still has more room to go, which does indicate that it could bounce as well. So overall, in the short term, it could bounce. But I don't think that it's worth really looking at. And there's definitely better opportunities and better trading patterns out there. All right, so Wish. On Wish, if we can cross above the 50 simple moving average at 1147, all right? And if we cross above today's highs at 1192, Wish is going to squeeze, in my opinion. It's going to squeeze upward like crazy. 1192 and 1220. If we cross above 1220, Wish is going to absolutely squeeze. You can see that it's trading. Along the upper level of the B band, which means that it's pushing it up, right? We can see that the MACD is flat, but it's overbought, which, you know, doesn't look that great. But I mean, you know, we've been overbought this entire time, which is a bit confusing as we see that the price is at like lows. So the MACD is a bit out of whack here. But the RSI, you can see that there's a bull flag on the RSI. All right, and we're crossing out of the downtrend on the RSI, which is a very good sign. So if those levels were to break, we can see a squeeze upward. But the levels that would need to hold are obviously today's lows, right? But then for tomorrow, the levels that would need to hold are 1057, which is this lower level trend line here. All right, so 1057 needs to hold to the lower side, and then 1220 needs to break on the upper side. If that breaks to the upside, oof, that is gonna fly. That's like easy money. You could scalp the option contracts. You could literally buy like oof, that's money. Like I made a lot of money on Wish these past few days. So yeah, I would just be watching those. I'd just be watching those areas. So Clove, very similar. It needs to cross above yesterday's highs at 1626, right? And if the lows don't hold here at, you know, 1343 and 1343, if that doesn't hold, then we can see there's a gap all the way to $12. So that is essentially a $1.50 move to the downside if this doesn't hold. All right, on Clove. So 1343 needs to hold on Clove. And to the upside, what needs to break is 1626. If you're not in a position right now, I would just wait for a position to enter, either puts or calls above. Okay, so I would just wait. Also, another important level of support could be the 10 simple moving average at 1294, but it's a secondary. Like if this breaks, then there's no reason to be bullish to the upside if this breaks to the downside, right? The MACD is pointed downward. If it crosses below, that's a very bullish, it's a very bearish sign in the short term. But Once the MACD does cross below and evens out a bit, that would give more room potentially to the upside, and it would give more juice. So let's see what happens with Clove. But yeah, those are the levels that I'm watching. The RSI is pretty stagnant, which is very interesting. It's pretty interesting because, you know, nothing really even happened since June 10th. So that's very important to watch. But yeah, there's Clove. Momo has a crap ton of momentum. We can see it's trading well outside of the upper level of the B band, which is, you know, it means that there's a lot of momentum on the stock, right? In the short term, it means that it's very bullish. But what always usually tends to happen is, because, especially on the larger indices, on these smaller stocks, it doesn't really matter as much because you know you can see huge moves like this. But when we are trading well outside of the upper level of the B band, for example, here and here, it usually always means that we're going to see a reversion of the mean. So we're going to see a reversion to the mean. Sorry. We're going to trade back inside the B bands. All right. So I'd be very careful about buying Momo right now. We can see that the MACD is extremely overbought. Extremely overbought here. The last time it's been this overbought was back in February. And yeah, I'd be very careful. The RSI still isn't overbought yet, which is, you know, a bullish sign. But I mean, look how close it is to being overbought. That's when things just get very, very funky and you know, scary. It barely ever allows itself to get overbought. You see here in January, and then it was overbought for a few days back in February, which is, you know, the last time we got this overbought on the MACD. So it doesn't look like a great buying opportunity for all of those different reasons here. All right, on Momo, I would just wait for it to retest. I mean, honestly, it could break all the way back down to like $15 and then create some sort of, you know, a pattern. Wait for it to base out and find support. And yeah, that's that on Momo for now. So here's Poly. You can see a very clear uptrend channel, which is pretty ridiculous. It's very, very clean actually. So the upper level of the channel is almost in confluence with the upper level of the B band. You can see the MACD is starting to even out a bit, even while Poly is moving upwards. So that is a pretty bullish sign. Yeah, so let me take this off actually. So the upper level for tomorrow is going to be essentially at around $40. And then the lower level for tomorrow is going to be essentially at $38.50. All right, so $38.50 to $40. If it breaks either of those levels, then you become bullish above it or bearish below it, right? So, yeah, those looks very clean on Poly. This is pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, we had a huge move, but I would just wait for it either to break above 40 or 38.50. AQN, huge bullish move, similar to Momo. I would just be very, very careful about buying into anything so far out and overextended on the B bands. But again, you know, we could see it retrace back down to like $16 or even $15.75 down here, and then, you know, make another move upward. But right now we are approaching overbought on the RSI. We're overbought on the MACD. We're very overextended on the Bollinger Band. We're approaching lots of resistance all throughout here. So I really do think that right now is not a good time to buy into AQN. I would wait for it to cool down a bit and look for it to recreate some sort of a support. And last but not least, AAL. We are now extremely oversold on the MACD. The RSI is pointed downwards, but we are oversold now, essentially at support. So the 50 simple moving average is support at 2272. Sorry, 2272 is at support, right? We can see that it's had a huge downward move. But we're now at support. So we need to see how it responds around really 2250. If 2250 can hold, then especially since this MACD is extremely oversold, this is a very bullish scenario. When we are extremely oversold at a support level, that means that there is a lot of room to go upward. All right. So this setup here, if all of these things work out, this would make it go back up to $24, $25, $26 on AAL. All right. This would mean that the MACD would also cross above, and then it would cross above this level, which is another bullish sign, and it would continue going on higher potentially. So AAL looks, but we need to see how it trades around 2250. So, but yeah, other than that, it's been an hour and 5 minutes. It's wow. Okay. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Everyone that stayed until the end, thank you so much. I hope you guys liked the information and the content that I'm giving you guys. Please drop a comment. Anything that I can do to make everything better, please go ahead and let me know. Other than that, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks. Have a great day.